Let's queer up health. Conservatives turn their sights on vital HIV program PEPFAR. The U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR, serves as a conduit for providing HIV medications to individuals in impoverished nations who would otherwise lack access to these drugs. However, groundless claims from anti-abortion activists have put the program in jeopardy. Conservative and anti-abortion groups sent a letter to Republicans in Congress who are responsible for PEPFAR's reauthorization. The letter said that PEPFAR funds are used by non-governmental organizations that promote abortions and push a radical gender ideology abroad. They provide no evidence to back up their claim. Also, the ultra-conservative Heritage Organization released a report saying Congress needs to reassess PEPFAR. The report claims the Biden administration has misused the program as a well-funded vehicle to promote its domestic radical social agenda overseas, as it has done with other foreign aid programs. This so-called report also does not provide any proof. As a result, Republicans in Congress are threatening not to reauthorize the program. Dr. Anthony Fauci, known for his work at the National Institutes of Health, said, and I quote, "There's a real danger to associate the program with cultural issues as opposed to scientific ones that clearly show PEPFAR is saving lives," end quote. If Dr. Fauci said it, can we consider that it might be true? Put your feelings to the side, put your Bible away, and think about people's health. However you feel about queer people, however you feel about the AIDS epidemic, and you feel like gay people deserved it, which we didn't, consider that people's lives are at stake. And if your ideology, your belief is about saving lives and getting to heaven, if you believe in it, wouldn't you want to like help people, live and get there with your beliefs and your Jesus and your God or whatever? That only makes sense, right? But again, if it makes sense, they don't like it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, besides the story, talking about Fauci and stuff, I think a lot of the confusion and the things that they feel are debunked is during the pandemic and what Trump has done and the name and reputation he's given Fauci has ruined it for the rest of us. Because now when we talk about fact-based or evidence-based research, no one wants to believe it because now they have shit on Fauci. So whether Fauci says it or not, who are we to say we could believe it when his reputation has already been tarnished? Mm-hmm. So it's tough in that way.
It's also hard to tarnish. I mean, that is just to indulge that a little bit. I mean, he's been doing this work for a minute, right? Like that is, if we think about the work he started with HIV/AIDS, beginning in the 80s, like that is, but aside from that, one of the things that my big takeaway from this story, PEPFAR has been under attack by conservatives for decades. That's not new. Since it started in the early 2000s, they always tried to link it to I don't like using the term culture wars because this isn't about one culture over another. It's human rights, right? Like that is like to deny someone basic human rights is not my culture versus your culture or whatever, right? But the part that I want to emphasize here is how critically linked abortion rights and reproductive rights have always been to HIV/AIDS, to LGBTQ rights, to immigration. Like we can't separate these things at all. And too often when like abortion becomes under attack, right? Recently, right, the Ohio decision was the vote was so incredibly important and we need to read that as a queer victory for a number of many reasons, right? What bothers me so much is that people often abandon the fight when it's just about, they read reproductive rights as being only about women and a very kind of cisgendered idea of women. And that is like, it's about bodily autonomy, right? And that is that the right understands it that way. That is that they are making that link, and the resistance needs to make that link, that any attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. And I think that part of the story is really, really powerful and one that we have to pay a lot of attention to.
I am concerned about this particular program and this is the inside baseball, looking at how the sausage gets made perspective. But the fact is, this is not a beloved program that's, helping everyday Americans. This is not something that we know of. A lot of people who are watching this, who are into LGBTQ plus news, or this is going to be the first time they've heard about it because it has not been around that long and it goes overseas. So when we go to budget negotiations, because we're staring down another government shutdown forced by the Republican fascists, when it goes to negotiations, there's a good chance that this will be a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
who are we sacrificing? We're sacrificing not America's most vulnerable, the world's most vulnerable. And that's what makes this particular story even more evil.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.